Mr. Andrew Cortado, how are you, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you,
Good, good.
Oliver? Olivier, OD, OD.
OD, overdose. I just remembered when I was living there in San Francisco and for a bit. Do you know what Cortado means? Because I remember ordering some coffee that's black
It's
Cortada. It's really nice. It's like a burnt sugary thing.
yeah, it's about half a cut of espresso and half a cut milk or cream. I suppose that's how it works. Which is ironic since I'm really not drinking the coffee nor cream right now. So
Yeah, the reason I like talking to you is you do a lot of experiments, both with yourself and that. So I'm just curious,
yeah.
what kind of experiments lights you up at the moment, or is giving you interesting insights for yourself, and which others may find useful as well. Others,
Okay.
including
Yeah.
me, including me.
Yeah, so what is my current train? Well, right now I'm working a lot more on health and nutrition. So
Mm-hmm.
starting to study how that works, and it's been really interesting too. Since I came from more of like the personal growth, the community that's like believe in believe in it, and like you'll like life will change. And after getting more deeper into nutrition and also how the body works, I'm starting to realize the relationship between what we eat, how we behave, toxins in the environment, and our states of mind. So,
Mm.
like there's all these different links that I'm starting to realize. It's like, oh, like depression. Like, let's take an
Mm.
example of depression right now. It's like depression's a really big thing, and not a lot of people
Yeah.
are really aware of how to deal with it. And then, one method is to look at like what is your what is your family history, your relationship with your dad, Freudian or Jungian, going like, what is there an internal darkness that you have not faced? And it's like, I don't know. Sometimes it's just like your body is inflamed, and what happens when your body is inflamed is that these little things called macrophages start to eat up like damaged tissue, and then they release these things called cytokines, and then these cytokines actually
Mm.
travel up your nervous system and they pass the blood-brain barrier, and then the blood-brain barrier, it starts to trigger I think the glial cells or the microfilm or something like that, and then your brain is inflamed, and then that's basically one of the roots of depression that I don't think people look at. Is that in the personal growth community, you might think that it's like some sort of personal problem that you did, but if you maybe you're just like allergic to gluten, and then you have gluten inflammation, and then that travels up and causes depression, then that is something to consider. And the same with anxiety too. It's like, if your body doesn't have like the nutrients and resources that it needs to survive, then it will just trigger this anxiety response. And it has
Mm.
nothing to do with like you need to face your darkest fears and demons. It's like, no, you need to eat food that will help your body chill out. So those are the kind of things. But it does go also both ways too. Like, what I'm learning as well is that your whole body has electrical, its own like electrical circuitry, right?
Yeah.
And the nervous system, the thoughts are basically electrical like gradients firing from your neurons. And we also have electrical systems in our muscles, electrical systems in the water and the cell membranes, electrical systems in the ATP.
Mm.
And one of two things have been really interesting. One is that on one facet of cancer, not all of it, is that there's a lower electro gradient potential. So, let's
Mm.
say you have like a stomach cancer type of thing, and then if you took like the electric measurement of it, then you would see that there's like a lower gradient of electricity voltage in that system.
Yeah.
And this also has kind of been consistent with the research that, like, if animals like a salamander got its like a limb cut off, then there would be this kind of electro gradient vacuum, and then part of it healing is that it raises the voltage in that system. So I've been thinking about like, okay, I'm not a big fan of like the positive mental movement, but there is something to say that, like, sending energy to like a specific part of the body. Let's say if that part of the body has low voltage, then could that facilitate in healing yourself by thinking positively? And I think that there seems to be at least in the electrical basis. I know a lot of people use energy, but it's like, what does energy mean? It's like, oh, it's really hard to measure, but you can measure electricity. So I think that's been something too that I've been interested in. Another part to go with that is emotions, which the things that we feel every day is, and a lot of this actually, I was sending you texts about what I've been really learning about how consciousness works and why that's really important. One of the things that I've learned too with emotions is like, I kind of call them BCE storms, like they're biological, chemical, emotional storms that we're aware of. So biologically, we have circuitry, like let's say like fear in response to certain events in the world, then that changes our chemical responses. And then there's also electrical things. I remember too, like let's say in one taste or in personal, maybe another personal growth community, it's like someone's ungrounded, right? It's like, wow, it's really interesting. Like
it's electricity.
Right? Yeah, it's like somebody has been hit by a bolt of electricity, like they overcharged, but there's nowhere to dissipate that energy.
Yeah.
And one way I've been considering about how to deal with some negative emotions is like, actually, maybe you could go to a tree or something, but it's like you think about the emotion and then that electrical current recirculates in your body, but you have somewhere to send it. I actually do this with people too. It's like other people can absorb the electrons from your overcharge, and then that way, you really can start to tackle the emotion. Like, let's say a triggered emotion that's generating a lot of voltage from your body, you could start to kind of send it out, the current out, and then you can also kind of reprocess it in the mind as well. Because one of the things about memories is like your brain stores a memory and then it takes it out, and when the memory is kind of in your working space, it's unstable, which means it's really good for changing. Whereas like the stored memory is very stable. So when it's unstable, then you can, let's say, whatever experience that you have in life that changes the context of the thing, the memory will change, and then it will be restored in your brain as a stable format. So I think that part of when I was thinking about things like trauma research and like the Peter Levine, Bessel, Van der Kolk, body keeps the score type of thing, is that like people do need to, on an extent, re-experience the event, like get the charge up, like because that's what it is stored electrical charge in your body. Like when you have a trauma, it's like your body just generates a lot of survival electricity to move it, but it gets stuck somewhere. And part of it is learning how to start to think about emotion and clogged up emotions as something that you have to look at the electrical level of it. And also make sure, to the audience who listens, there's a book called Healing is Voltage. So that's the book that I've been looking into. Another book is called The Fourth Phase of Water. And this talks about how the water in our body, when sunlight hits it, changes into a gel-like form. And that makes it more conductive for our body to move electricity. So it's like, it's like you go to the sun and you walk on the beach and you feel happier, but it's like, well, part of that has to do with how the water in your body organizes itself. And they also talk about how water stores memory. So I don't actually know the research on this, but information of our past, let's say traumas or emotional abuses, could be stored in the water in our cells. 70% of our body is water, so it seems like a useful place to store our memories, and the water can hold information. So cleaning out the water in your body can be really useful too. And like the positive thinking, because positive thinking means you're using your prefrontal cortex to aim the electricity in a certain direction, which seems to be why we have that part of the brain. And I've been really excited listening to different speakers on YouTube and trying to put these pieces together and realizing that I guess the thing is, I want more of it's just really cheap healing, right? It's like right, you go to the sun, you get sunlight. Anyways, go on.
I do that actually. When I wake up, I always drink my coffee in to get sunlight, and I've been like you. I've been researching on this places like the Neurohacker Collective. So I've been looking at that, and one school of thought is that that the mitochondria in our cells, it's like bacteria, right? That was somehow wasn't eaten. Normally they get eaten by our cells, but somehow they fuse into a symbiotic relationship. But as a bacteria, they actually need sun. You know, they need the sun. They need
Yeah,
the
yeah,
infrared rays to turn
yeah,
ATP, to turn sugars into ATP. So it's
yeah.
crucial. Yeah.
Definitely. That's actually what I did read too. Is like you had four power plants in your body. One of
Mm.
them was your muscles. So when you actually move, it generates a current. So that's really good to
Mm.
get exercises.
Yeah. Movement is
Um,
good. Yeah.
movement. The other ones I believe is the mitochondria is one. So it does the Krebs cycle and it releases an
Mm.
electron. Those donated electron give power to the cell. The other one is in the phospholipids of the thing.
Mm.
And I think that I forgot the last one too. I think water is conductive, but they did say that the water in your body changes when it's given sunlight into a gel-like format, and that creates that's really necessary for cellular communication between it. So I mean it's a simple hack, but I think it's phenomenally, it's like, well, you're gonna take a bunch of vitamin D pills or you just go in the sun. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I
I
think
haven't heard of
anything that
that.
brings
I look into that. But what I've heard is like
yeah.
water that's inside vegetables is
Mhm.
different from water that's just from the tap. So somehow
Yeah,
it's also
yeah.
transformed. Maybe it's something to do with that. Yeah.
No, they call it the difference between bulk water and I suppose living water is what they call it. But
Mm-hmm.
water does have, well, in the fourth phase of water is basically between a and the author is Jarek Pollock.
Mm-hmm.
So I could send you that stuff. But he
Cool.
says that actually what I do is I get a bunch of ice, and
Mm-hmm.
then as it melts into regular water, it passes through that gel-like state. But yeah, the water in our bodies is much, and in living creatures is much different than, let's say, water you just drink from the tap. So
Yeah.
um, it's water that's been repurposed as a way to um, connect all our circuits together, because it seems like it's a good way. It creates like this barrier. It's called easy water, like exclusion zone water, and it creates this
Mm-hmm.
barrier between cells, and it allows like certain things to go through and certain things not to
Yeah.
go through, and it also has a really cool honeycomb structure to it too. So
Yeah.
um,
And
I
also,
thought that was
have you seen this? Is it cymatics? Like where they do a sound wave on water and it forms this like fractal like structures.
yeah.
I haven't really gone deep into it, but it looks interesting from what I see from the surface. Have you done much thinking about that or research on that?
I haven't. I've heard about it, and
Mm-hmm.
because I do a lot of dry fasting as well. So dry fasting is no food, no water, and you just kind of stay out and just chill out. And the longest I've gone was about 3 days, though I have been doing
Three
a
days with
little.
nothing.
Yeah, but so here's the key thing, which I think is really interesting about dry fasting is, so it's like you think, oh my god, no water, I would die, I would evaporate like a little, shrivel up and die. But your body does. So this is one of the questions I've been really looking at. I haven't seen the research because part of the research is in Russian, but it's the difference between metabolic water and, let's say, I guess, the living easy water that they're talking about. Because so what happens is when you're dry fasting, your body is it reaches a certain place, like the acidic crisis. It becomes super acidic. It just starts to be like, okay, well, we need not only food and energy, but we need water. So the thing we do
Mm,
is we break down adipose tissue, and adipose tissue are these long chains of hydrogen, right?
mm,
So it starts getting all this fat is being broken down at twice the speed. You need fat broken down for ketones to fuel yourself, but you also
mm,
need fat for water, because when it's breaking down those carbon hydrogen bonds, well, it's combining it with the air that you breathe. So you breathe air, you
mm,
get oxygen, your body gets oxygen inside itself, and then it combines that oxygen with the hydrogens released from fat, and it produces its own water, metabolic water. And I think the
cool.
Russians were talking about how you can make up to, like, I think a liter of water in a dry fast. I think I'm not sure it's per day. Maybe it's like half a liter. I'm not. I'll have to look it up. But your body produces its own water, and another an animal that does that also is the camel, right? A camel's
Yeah,
big
yeah.
hump is a big. It's not
Water
water. It's fat.
storage.
It's
Yeah.
fat. It's actually
Mm,
fat, and it breaks down that fat in order to hydrate itself when there's a scarcity of water. So it's also, I mean, there's also a lot of other good things too about like no water during a dry fast, is that things like inflammation, pathogens, certain bacteria cannot survive without water, right? So that metabolic water that your body is producing only goes to the healthy cells. It's eating up all the old weak cells. So after 3 days of fasting, basically you get your immune system regenerates because it eats out all the immune cells, and I think it also replaces your mitochondria, which is really important to preventing things like cancer. So it's like all the cells in your body that have not kept up to speed, they're wiped out, and then they're replaced with healthy new cells. And those healthy new cells are fed the metabolic water from dry fasting. So mostly use dry fasting to heal from a lot of, let's say, sicknesses. Is that it's kind of like having a fever for a very long time, because what a fever does is it raises the temperature, and it's like only certain cells can survive, and if you're only feeding those certain cells, the healthy cells, then you're basically doing a kind of scorched earth tactic on or what I call Noah's flood, right? It's like God, you controlling the body, has decided to wipe out all the wickedness of your body, and only let the small people survive. But so like after my like last dry fast which was about 3 days, no food, no water, and I was just like and then like I was really tired, but then your body rebuilds itself within like a week, and I have a whole new cellular system. Like I have a whole new immune system up, a whole new mitochondria system up. Pretty sure there's a lot of other cells that have been replaced. So, I feel pretty good, healthy. Definitely, dry fasting is something to really look into. It's cheap, it's free. So there you go. I mean,
I'll try it. I'll try it, and then maybe we'll do another one of this, and I'll let you know how I go. Yeah. It's a bit also Nietzschean, like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
It's it's interesting too, because I think that there's I think humans also, as we don't realize what we're capable of. Like I tell people dry fast, and you're like, oh my God, you would die without water after like a day. It's like, really? I mean, that would make no sense in a human who lived in the desert or something like that. It's like, have you really thought about it? Like, would we really die in a day without eating or drinking? It's like, well, probably not. Like, so like people don't really question these assumptions, but I think it's past these things that we just assume to be true, that if you really unlock the door to all this health secrets, and that's basically where I'm at right now. It's like I think that life is really good. I mean, all the problems in the world aside, is like we have the ability to access like all the secrets that like people have spent their lives on. Like dry fasting is a person who's been he's probably working 30, 40 years trying to figure out how to cure things like cancer and radiation from turnip oil. And he's like, wow, we found this solution. And, it's in Russian text, but, you're combining it to these things like, oh, man, I was learning this thing about inflammation and brain disease, and also the links between, like, let's say, autism and microbiome health and all this stuff. And even this conversation now is like I think humanity's greatest achievement at this moment is that the internet really, like the full power of the internet, is that we can connect the best ideas together and create solutions that are way more effective than what we have in the market. So I know that. Go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and the beauty of that is we can experiment on ourselves, and because of the internet, we can connect and talk to each other, right? Because the beauty of this is you don't need ethics committees, you don't need funding, you don't need some imprimatur or some tick from a committee that have vested interest. You can just do it. I can just do it on me, and if it works so far, like I can remember, I can relate to what you were saying. Like when I started my ketogenic phase, people because I'm Filipino and we always have rice, right? And then people are going, how are we gonna survive if you're not gonna eat rice? Like, well, I'm still here and I look healthier than you, and I haven't eaten rice for quite a while.
It's interesting too, because a lot of the disorders, the health disorders, are actually not from like pork fat. Actually, the pork fat's probably the best thing you could eat for yourself.
True.
It's actually like things like rice and your sugar. And
sugar.
I like hala hala, but it's like I'm gonna have to like if things like diabetes and obesity, they're caused from actually carbohydrates, like an overabundance of carbohydrates. And
Yeah.
also too, like things like cancers too, really, like when I was researching cancer metabolism, it's basically there's like abundance of glucose and low oxygen, and
Mm.
that combination creates this fermentation of this ancient process of the mitochondria, which is a fermentation process. And then that cell growth just gets out of control, and it starts to outcompete basically your other cells. I don't remember how you got, but the mitochondria breaks down, then the electrical current, because that's a power station, the voltage goes down in that cell,
Mm.
and then you just have this feedback cycle that eventually forms the thing of cancer. But in the respect of cancer, it's like you're thinking about, if you're doing a ketogenic diet, it's actually protecting your body against these cancers, because cancer cells actually, they're designed to use glucose as a fuel, and they can outcompete your healthy cells for glucose. So if you don't have any glucose other than the glucose that comes from your liver from glucogenesis, you really like the part of the thing is the cancers will starve and those tumors will reduce when you're on ketones. And you combine that with, say, like electrical chemical therapy and maybe some, maybe certain herbs. There is solutions to like hack your way out of cancer if that's what you decide
Yeah.
to do.
One good frame I heard about cancer is, really think of if you really think about our body, we're like, it's like a whole community of different stuff. Like there's like a whole trillions of microbes in my stomach. That's all
Yeah,
really. It's like a big city or a big. It's like a
community,
world. It's a big community. And what happens with,
microverse,
yeah, microverse. What happens
microverse.
is, if you're unhealthy, because life will protect itself, right? So when
Yeah,
when when you're flooding your system with too much sugar, or different parts will then say, "Oh, it's getting fucked up, this country. I'm just gonna protect myself." It's a bit like the politics. I'm just gonna protect myself. I'm just gonna multiply because I'm no
yeah,
longer part of this federation. I think that's what cancer is. It's particular cells in your body are threatened, and as a way of coping with that, they just protect themselves and they
yeah.
multiply more than necessary. I think that's a good. I like that framing. I don't know how accurate it is, but it seems to make
Yeah.
sense to me. Yeah.
Well, for cancer, it's what the research has been pointing to, and it's not all. I mean, there's still debates, but it's the mitochondria that we're talking about, that bacteria cell has an
Mm.
ancient process called fermentation, right? So before our cell ate that other mitochondria, right? That mitochondria used to be in a low oxygen environment with probably a lot of glucose, so it's like the ancient. It's actually more of a primitive response before
Mm. Mm.
our bodies developed, eating the mitochondria and having that produced. But the mitochondria is basically the power plant. And I like to think of cancer as a power plant failure in the body, right? Like
Mm.
that, it's mitochondria is one of the core parts of your metabolism. So if that power plant, like if the power plant goes down, well, it doesn't actually just shut down completely. It starts to just look for things to burn in order to keep it alive, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
let's say the power grid went down in one of your, like in, I don't know, some district in Sydney, and it's like, well, we need to like that power plant's just trying to keep itself alive somehow, right? So like, maybe the defense system, and its job is like to steal like probably glucose from other cells, right, in order to
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 survive. Yeah.
survive, right?
Yeah.
Because it's ancient survival mechanism. Whereas, like when I'm talking about dry fasting, one of the things that your body does is after 3 days, it basically eats up all the old mitochondria and just builds new ones. It's like, okay, let's say we have a bunch of servers. You know what happens when the server goes down? We kill it and we replace it like cattle, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
your body's kind of brutal like that. It's like, once it realizes that there is no food, only the strong will survive. It will destroy those mitochondria that can't survive, and then it'll grow. And one of the things that's cool about dry fasting and autophagy, or actually you can also do ketogenic. Like if you do a 3-day water fast too, you can do the same thing. It doesn't seem to matter, I think, if it's water or dry, although dry is just much more faster in
Mm.
that respect. But it's like your body releases stem cells, and then basically stem cells, when we're born, those are like the kind of blank cell that that grow into things. So like it's like you burn the forest, but you start planting all these seeds, and then those cells start to grow into new things, and that's part of the regeneration process. And
Yeah,
it's like
I could relate that to being in Australia. In Australia, they've just discovered that there are some trees that won't reproduce if you don't burn part of the forest. That's why the Aboriginal
yeah,
people here, the first peoples of Australia, they have this.
mm-hmm.
They know how to burn without killing the whole forest. So they burn
Yeah,
periodically all the time, and that
yeah,
actually helps the plants to thrive. It's interesting, right? All
yeah,
these
yeah,
parallelisms, like macro and micro, and so interesting.
yeah, yeah. I've actually thought of like going back to the microverse, our bacteria as the collective will of our body, or something like that. It's
Mm.
like we need to unify, and we have voted you as God of our of ourselves. So there you go, and that's how we. I'm trying to find a power chord right now.
That's cool.
So there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of microbiome as well. Like this. I brewed this. This is a kombucha, and it's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And have you looked at microRNA? I was fascinated when I heard about it. Like these are
Micro
the
what?
microRNA that triggers epigenetics. So these are the microRNA actually escapes the body and exchange it, and when you get it and enters your body, it can turn on and off some of your genes to do things. So that's why they say. I've been also doing this experiment where I go out, touch touch living things, walk barefoot on the ground, so that I can
Yeah.
exchange microRNA with lots of things. Because I think the theory is, if you're in a sterile environment, as you were saying, only the tough mofos survive. So even the parasites, the really bad microbes, they're the ones that survive hospitals. So it's really easy to get this really monoculture microbes that can kill you if you have no diversity inside you. It's actually better to touch a lot of dirt than just have
Yeah.
a really clean house, but there's still some really tough microbes that can survive Dettol, and that's the one that can actually hurt you. It's an interesting concept. But when you have a
Yeah.
lot of microbes in your body, they check each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's World War II's going on in the microbe world. One of the
Mm.
things, the two things that I think that sometimes I'll just kind of reiterate some concepts. Like when you're walking around barefoot, your body is doing the grounding thing, right? Like so the
True.
the earth basically has less has a lot of free space, so all those electrons are going. So you are
Yeah.
making, and I think also when you touch living things, like everything is exchanging electrons in that sense. So I
Mm.
guess that's changing energy. And what we know, at least about, to add on an RNA thing, if RNA is, it seems like it's DNA was the last one that's actually triggered by electricity too. The DNA helix actually has this kind of electrical, because it's a spiral,
Yeah.
works in that sort of thing. But also like to trigger a lot of the way the nervous system triggers responses to things is like it sends like a current, and then that current signals the release of like neurotransmitters. If it's in the brain, or if it's in the kind of maybe like the other organs, it's going to send the trigger of like hormones. So that kind of thing too is also pretty interesting about like I said, I guess one of my fascinations is the electrical currents of our body, because it seems to be core. And then
Mm.
and the other thing too, I guess it was just about the adaptive immune system. Is like, if you expose yourself to these little microbes, then your body will pick up them in minute amounts, and if they do cause a little bit of irritation, then your body will develop an immunity or response to it. And that's basically what happens when we get a vaccine. Is like we get a vaccine, we get a little bit of the microbe, and then our body is trained to fight those. So I'm pretty sure having a good rough and tumble prepares your body to adapt to other things if they're like a big nuisance in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I've also heard studies about peanut allergies that
Mm-hmm.
one way they've been curing it is to give them microdoses of peanuts, and kids who get the microdoses eventually grow out of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas, yeah, kids with no zero exposure, they become like peanut intolerant their whole lives because they haven't been exposed to it. It's interesting.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, that's those are the kind of cool things to learn about too, because when you think about, so like we're thinking about the microbiome and things like autoimmunity, which is
Yeah,
autoimmunity
yeah.
so basically the immune system, which is trained to attack like outsiders, now attacks itself, and
True. Mm.
part of the thing that protects against the bad stuff getting into your body in the first place is the microbiome, because they say the link between a lot of these different things is the leaky gut syndrome, right? So
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
the flora are outside, and then you have some bad flora or some sort of things. They penetrate the gut, and then depending on where those bad microbes go, your body's going to attack them because it's going to recognize a foreigner. So things like if those microbes that don't belong get into like your skeletal tissue, then you get like rheumatoid arthritis. If they get into the thyroid, it causes Hashimoto's syndrome. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting to see that access point as having a really healthy microbiome to protect you against a lot of these things where it's like once they penetrate that level of offense to get there, and like I said, like once they're in your system, so like let's say rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's, then your body starts attacking them and it creates inflammation. And what does
Yeah.
inflammation do? It goes up to your brain, causes depression. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing where I've really been fascinated about the links between mental health and
The gut. The gut.
and just general. Yeah, I mean, that's been a really good thing. I've been focusing mostly on that in terms of personal
Yeah,
growth. It's
I've
like,
done experiments on that too. I've been taking the Restore, the terahydrite. It's from ancient soil, and it's restoring that membrane, the gut membrane.
yeah, the
And
gut
since
brain.
I've been taking it, it's like amazing. Things that usually floored me in the past,
Yeah,
now I'm more like it hits me, but I don't go down. I don't get depressed. I still feel it, but then
yeah,
it's a bit like June, the litany of fear. Fear is the man killer. I will let fear
yeah,
pass through me, and when there's nothing left, it's just me. Something like that. Is that how I still feel it coming, and I go, and I just watch. It's like, oh, my body still
yeah.
feels good. Normally, I'll be in bed by now. I don't know, just being lethargic. But now, okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, on a positive note too, it's like when your microflora have all the nutrients they need, they're going to produce the raw materials for your brain to function, right?
Yeah,
And your brain's resilient is really dependent on getting it the right resources to function properly. So, what I see a lot of health doing is it's like it's better attention, better resilience, less
mm,
anxiety, less depression. Better learning, more clarity, less brain fog, definitely.
yeah,
So all those nutrients are really important to get that handled and learn about how diet works. I mean, recently the thing that I've been battling out, I was just battling was SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So I've been like,
mm,
so it's like basically I didn't have, the root of it was I didn't have enough strong stomach acid to
yeah.
kill off the bacteria. So those bacteria overgrew, and then I just started burping a lot, and I didn't digest my food as well. So what I did is I bought some Betamine HCl, and then I just started nuking my stomach acid. Yeah, it's like now I don't burp anymore, and now I'm working on just like repairing the microflora so that that I control the problem. But I think there's things like that too that I think have been really interesting to. Yeah, it's just like it's like these solutions that I'm getting. It's like it wouldn't be possible without the internet. I'd be like searching for drugs
Yeah.
for. I'd be like, what the fuck? I don't know. But right
Yeah,
now
yeah.
I just go on YouTube and I listen to this guy who has condensed his pearl of wisdom of like 50 years into an hour talk, and I'm like, this just changed. This changes everything, and I'm hoping to be
Yeah.
part of the movement that. I was super lonely today. I was like, man, one day maybe I'll never find a girl and I'll die alone in this pitiful life. And then I was like, then I just woke up. I was like, fuck that shit, man. I'm here to change the world. and then we had a talk, So, but that's the thing is I think that no matter I think that it's kind of given on a personal note, like as I go through my own experimentations and realizing that a lot of my ideas are out there and I'm not a normal person, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to accept that part of being a pioneer and maybe
Outlier, and it's really
yeah, it's just like
it's outliers who change the world. It's
yeah,
not the conformists that change the world, right?
yeah. We should call ourselves flipping outliers.
Orgasmic outliers.
Yeah,
Oh
I've been actually
oh.
it's funny too. So a little bit kind of more on a personal note too. It's like when I went traveling to Asia, um, I was just like using that to work on myself and my relationship to One Taste. And then eventually, it's like eventually I just forgave myself or accepted myself for whatever it is. It's just like,
Good
but
job.
yeah, no, it was difficult. Like I felt a lot of guilt basically
Mm.
about the organizational practices and my role in it. And it was a very, I think it was a one in a lifetime experience. I don't know if the live people will really know too much about what One Taste is. It's like a sex cult organization. So there you go. You can just look it up. And, um, but it did do something. It took me out a little bit morally as a person. Like it demoralized. Like I felt really bad about who I was. Looking back at it and traveling around the world has really helped me just kind of come to really be with myself. And I think it's just good to have like that low stress space. And another
Mm.
thing too is on the field of electrical currents is traveling and new experience. So we're talking about epigenetics, right? So
Yeah.
epigenetics also impacts on the brain too. So what happens is when your brain wants to start making new neural connections, it changes. Um, it builds new proteins, and that's basically what epigenetics is. Like the experiences you have in life will change the structure of your brain,
Mm.
and from there, it's like if you travel a lot, you're generating the electrical current to have that shift in your brain in order to do something new. And I don't think it's going to be as powerful if you're just kind of doing the same thing every day, just living the regular life. Like it does require you to actually push out into the world and experience new things, because if you don't, your brain just doesn't have any reason to change. Whereas like if you do
Mm.
travel a lot and get new experiences and learn new things, then your brain is like actually going to modify itself. It's going to hit that epigenetic button and be like, okay, well, I just learned something new. This might help me. Let me modify myself. Let me modify the wirings, and then your brain is just creating new connections.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah, either that go wide or really go deep. Because I know some craftsmen or
yeah.
some Zen masters, they do one thing for
Mhm.
their life, but each time they do it, it's different. They really go deep, like
Yeah.
making teapots. It's like,
Yeah.
but it's not like boring. It's like they continually perfecting the thing, and it's like wow, amazing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I think too. Also, when you pay attention to something, and then you get to know it on one level, your attention is able to pick up actually more nuances on deeper levels. So
Yeah.
you still are getting that novelty too. It's like you really actually do focus on something, and it's like you actually start to pay attention. You realize all these nuances, and then your brain still starts to modify itself when there is novelty. Like I think our brains
Mm.
are really designed to actually see novelty and change in response to it. And like there's a whole structures in the brain. The limbic system is basically like one of our circuits is basically go out in the world and explore something, analyze it, and then update your memory when something has shifted.
Mm.
And we'll just do that naturally. I think the thing that really blocks us is stress. Like if we're really stressed and always in this fight or flight mode, we have no
Yeah.
reason to explore alternative solutions. And I think a lot of stress comes from like our lifestyle, our diet, our thoughts, and that also creates this bottleneck for people not to be able to improve themselves, because you're just so exhausted by the end of the day, and you're just like, I just want to check out. But I think the people who really do take that time to invest in new options, eventually over time you really get some novel solutions for your body.
Yeah, and
And that's kind of
you get something unique because it's your own personal exploration. It's my own personal exploration, and in terms of economics, then you become such a sui generis, singular person that no one can compete with you because you're you.
yeah.
But whereas if I try to modify myself to fit a certain job, a
Yeah.
role, I'm just replaceable. Like anyone can
Yeah.
replace me, I can be fired. But if my way of earning my living is just being me, by being whatever, however outlier me is me, then there's no competition, and then it's an easier way of surviving. I think it's a bit
Yeah.
counterintuitive, but that's what, at least
Yeah.
it's where I'm putting my mouth, or I'm putting my money where my mouth is in terms of this. Yeah.
No, I mean, I definitely think that, like, you know, one of the things I was just thinking about is in America is like everyone's complaining about healthcare. It's like, why don't we all get
Yeah.
free healthcare? It's like, dude, just like you have free internet. Like, go look up the fucking solution. You know, it's like in this conversation we told you about like solutions for treating cancer, right? It's like, do you want to get like this expensive, damaging chemotherapy that would cost you like $40,000, or do you want to like just maybe like not eat
Not
for
eat
a
and
couple
drink for
days?
3 days. Yeah. If you're gonna
Right?
die anyway,
You
like if I
actually
had
don't,
cancer,
because
I'll try that because I'm gonna die anyway. What's not eating for 3 days, you know?
yeah, seriously, like just don't, like you could actually just drink water if you're starting off too, and like that's free. Like your body, like it's as if you were like you were incapable without institution to be
True.
your cattle prodder. And you know, one of the it's like, yes, we need like in medical institutions that we trust, and in big pharma that we trust, and in big banks that we trust, and just like where do you like there is no security there. You know, these things, like everything big just fails. But you don't humans are really built with this fantastic body that, like, you know, use this information that you've learned. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the microbiome will outlast. I mean, like people say, bacteria will pretty much outlast any type of apocalypse that we send out.
Yeah, and
But you know,
mycelium. Apparently, it survives space. Like all this
yeah,
mycelia. It's crazy, yeah.
yeah. But like, you know, I think this is the time for people to really take charge of their own health rather to wait endlessly for free healthcare, because I just don't think, one, someone else is going to pay for it and they don't want to, so you already have that problem. And then the other is just like, no one said that the healthcare was good, right? Like sure, other people, but these innovations happen when I think people really decide to be an outlier and not a cog in the machine. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, like everybody should have health insurance. That's why it's like I take care. My health insurance is I take good care of my health. You know, other than like getting
True.
hit by some random car. But did you know actually, like animals too? It's like they didn't have hospitals. We're talking about the dry fasting thing too. It's like bones will remineralize and heal. Muscles will resume themselves. They actually, like, I think when animals like they get a broken bone, they don't go to the dog doctor and say, hey, let me put a cast on it. You know, they actually stop eating, and those dead cells will actually break down. And like I said, stem cells will release when dry fisting hits a certain time, and the body will learn how to repair itself. It has to survive. It's like nature
Yeah, I just
will.
went through that. It was winter here in Sydney and it was raining, and for some reason, maybe my place was damp and there might be some mold toxins that accumulated. So I got
Yeah,
this kind of flu thing, but I didn't take anything and I just let it run its course, and now I'm back. It's like I didn't
yeah,
go to the doctor. I didn't take even paracetamol or anything. I just
right.
the only thing I did differently was just drink water with lemon and ginger, and which is kind of nice actually. I like the drink now, but that's it. And now I'm back. I didn't take no antibiotics or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas in the past, that would have been first step, take antibiotics. But now, no, I'm here. I'm healthy again. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. And I think that seems to be a lot of the one of the, I think, themes of the research that I've been learning too, is that our body has functional processes. And so let's
Mm.
say you get an injury, right? So your body gets an injury, and then your body gets inflamed, and then, you know, your body will you use the inflammation to burn out all the dead tissue, and then it'll restore itself back to normal. But the thing is that we have ways in the environment, or the ways we set up in the human systems, that block that natural function. So this parallels on a lot of levels. So let's say you had an infection, there's an inflammation, but you take an anti-inflammatory. So the inflammation, the thing that actually is supposed to burn out the initial
Yeah,
bug,
you get rid of
doesn't
it.
happen. Right,
Yeah.
it doesn't get rid of, you don't get rid of the initial injury. So then you actually have these things like chronic illnesses, right? Because you block
Mm.
the healing response of the body. And the same with trauma too. It's like people are actually much more resilient to face the fears that they've been going to, but because they've been coddled to like not face their fears, then the response that would heal them from, you know, the thing that traumatized them has been blocked and locked into their body. And part of it is really about teaching people how to activate your inner animal to kick ass, because that's what it's meant to
Yeah.
do. You know, humans we did not just like climb out of the trees in order to like cower in fear. It's like we're pretty like we outcompete a lot of other animals. Like we're pretty fucking good ass kickers. So,
Yeah,
you
we
know,
weren't evolved to live in safe spaces. We were evolved to live in an ecosystem where everyone
yeah,
out there is trying to kill us.
yeah, and
That's where we grew out of from, right?
yeah, I don't think we're supposed to be living out of this. Like I haven't been really using social media a lot, but it's like we're not supposed to be living in this untenable fear. It's like, and you know, these systems, they're not that strong. You know, like I'm working at Twitter right now. It's like, yeah, someone will make a tweet, somebody was feeling to a hurt, but it's like, you know, they're really gonna control the world. It's like, you know, people are just like, just wake up. You know, just like take us back, smack yourself. And you're like, all right,
Yeah.
normal. It's like you don't.
It's funny.
You know,
I was talking to this. I'm working on this performance happening in a few days, and I was working with the director. I was talking with the director, and we are just looking at the VR. There's some people. We saw some people playing with VR. I think it's cool, but then we were saying, but I just look at the sky. Look at the clouds. This is fucking amazing. I don't need to. I don't know. Put some goggles on
yeah.
and limit myself to pixels. But look at the tree with the light. That's
Yeah.
actually a miracle in itself. And yeah,
yeah. I mean, honestly, with VR, I actually like Google Earth VR, so I like to fly around the world and try stuff. But yeah, it's like I actually think that when your body is happier, it's just that's really what matters in a lot of ways. I think that's a lot of what I think. You know, kind of like I was sending you a text about consciousness. And like, oh, that's really interesting because consciousness really seems to also be a work that I've been looking at, like binding everything together. But one of the key factors in consciousness is like we're aware of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're aware of our feelings and environment. Like we're aware of our emotions. Not other animals are aware of their BCE storms, their biochemical electrical storms, but we are, and that gives us not only are we aware of it, but we can actually make a choice based on that awareness of it. Like we could choose to do something better.
Yeah.
And it seems like, you know, as our brains have been designed, like that's our superpower is that we could see things and we can act on the world, and then we can create solutions. But I don't think that people really use that advantage. But it seems that a large part of the brain that I was talking about earlier is to be aware of things that are happening. Notice it. It's like, man, I have these sniffles, or I'm feeling sick, you know. But to use your body to form a solution, and it's like, I mean, that's a lot to say about, I guess, human life in general. I guess the main point I was saying is that I think we have free will, you know, to choose life, and that's so. I think that's just a core part of the solution for a lot of people's problems. It's like, you know, you without free will, you don't have any responsibility, you don't have any meaning, you don't have any agency, you don't have any purpose, you don't have any sense individuality. Like all these things really are dependent on the idea that people can change their lives and their destinies. And I think that, you know, we on a physiological level, we do that because of we are able to use electricity to direct electricity in some sort of weird way, right? Yeah, I got you. So
Cool.
yeah, I
think this is a good place to stop as you are being evicted.
yeah, I've been evicted from the home. Yeah, well, I'm gonna start walking. But like, yeah, I guess we can close. I think an hour is good too. I get kind of tired anyway. So
Cool. I'll show you how. Hopefully, we've changed people's filter so they see reality differently. Look. If you just change your filter.
Yeah.
Oh, me? Is that me? Is that still me? Oh, what do you see? It's just a filter. Your mind.
So
your mind, your consciousness is what filters your reality. Woo-hoo.
Well, we'll talk about consciousness a little bit next time if you want to do this again.
Yeah, sure, for sure. I think, and I'll try the dry fast, and I'll let you know next time if I'm still alive to do this, and then you could exchange notes and tips and stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll survive. You're pretty Humans are pretty resilient motherfuckers, unless there's a meteor coming. But all right, take care.
Then everyone's dead. All right. Ciao. Have a good time in San Francisco.
Bye.
Woo. Bye.